Welcome back. Today we're exploring a chilling case that shook New Jersey in 2004. The precision with which the defendant planned, executed, and concealed this crime leaves us with a chilling truth. No one truly knew what lurked behind that tranquil suburban facade, declared prosecutor Patricia Cronin during her closing arguments. This case, known widely as the Suitcase Murder, centered around a seemingly ordinary woman named Melanie McGuire and her husband William, who both appeared to embody the American dream: comfortable jobs, a home in the works, and two young children waiting for a stable future. Yet beneath the veneer of domestic bliss, a dark and twisted story was about to unfold. In 2004, New Jersey was undergoing significant cultural and economic shifts. Suburban life had long been considered safe, a refuge for families striving to leave urban troubles behind. The McGuires lived in a community where neighbors often greeted each other warmly and trust flowed easily, a stark contrast to the horror soon to grip the local headlines. When William McGuire disappeared in late April of that year, few could have predicted the gruesome revelations that would surface just days later, changing the way investigators and the public at large understood the face of domestic homicide. This case shocked the public not merely because of its brutality, though that was certainly part of it, but because of who stood accused and how meticulously the crime had been carried out. Those who followed the details realized that the killer's methods were not impulsive. They suggested planning, medical knowledge, and a calculated attempt to erase any trace of wrongdoing. As the story broke, it forced the community and the nation to re-examine the assumptions they held about safety, marriage, and the boundaries of human cruelty. Its lasting impact on criminal investigation is undeniable. The techniques employed by detectives to track financial records, follow digital footprints, and use forensic technology would set new standards. The story continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts today, not just because of the horrific nature of the killing, but because it defied expectations at every turn. How could a suburban mother, a nurse accustomed to healing rather than harming, find herself at the center of such a gruesome narrative? It is this tension between the ordinary and the unimaginable that ensures the McGuire suitcase murder remains etched in the annals of American true crime history. When William McGuire disappeared on April 29, 2004, it did not initially alarm everyone. He and Melanie had just closed on a new home in Warren County, New Jersey, on April 28, and moving into that property was a milestone they had long anticipated. Their apartment in Woodbridge, New Jersey, was cramped compared to the spacious home they were due to occupy. According to acquaintances, William had expressed excitement over this new chapter. Yet as the evening of April 29 stretched into the small hours, neighbors recalled how the usual sounds of domestic life, the muffled laughter, the low hum of television, seemed oddly absent. The next morning, William could not be reached. His colleagues at the New Jersey Institute of Technology noted his uncharacteristic no-show on April 30. His close friend Ryan Stevenson tried calling multiple times and got no answer. Days passed without any sign of William. On May 1, a coworker worriedly commented that it was unlike him not to call if he was running late or experiencing a family emergency. The police in Woodbridge were contacted on May 2 to perform a welfare check. Officers reported no immediate signs of forced entry or disturbance in the McGuire apartment. Although nothing seemed overtly amiss, that sense of calm would soon prove deceptive. On May 5, 2004, approximately 220 miles from the McGuire home, a fisherman named Robert Dalton made a grisly discovery near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel in Virginia. He recalled the morning air carrying a salty tang as he guided his small boat along a quiet inlet. Spotting a dark, waterlogged suitcase bobbing against a rocky shoreline, Dalton docked and investigated. Inside, he found dismembered human remains, body parts carefully wrapped and placed within plastic bags. It would take another week before, on May 11, a second suitcase surfaced nearby, this time located by a local couple, the Harrisons, who were on a kayaking trip. A third piece of luggage followed shortly after. Each suitcase contained more body parts, and together they formed a macabre jigsaw puzzle of human remains. The victim's identity was soon confirmed through forensic examination. Dental records and a partial fingerprint matched William McGuire. Investigators now understood what had become of the missing husband. This was not a simple disappearance, it was murder. One executed with chilling precision and a clear attempt at concealment. The location of the suitcases, found drifting in Virginia waters, added complexity. The victim was from New Jersey. The killer, it appeared, had gone to great lengths to ensure these gruesome pieces of evidence were scattered far from their original source. The condition of the remains told a story of methodical dissection. Whoever had done this had knowledge of anatomy and used surgical tools. The cuts were clean, joints carefully separated. Forensic pathologists noted that the dismemberment likely took place shortly after death, making it simpler to dispose of the body in parts. Authorities suspected the victim had been shot at close range. Ballistic tests later confirmed 2 bullets lodged in bone fragments that would be matched to a firearm eventually traced back to the McGuire household. Witness testimony would become crucial. A neighbor, Patricia Morgan, reported seeing William's car leave the apartment complex around midnight on April 29, but she could not confirm who was driving. Another neighbor mentioned hearing muffled arguing that same night, something about money and the new home purchase. At the same time, a convenience store clerk in Atlantic City, Brian Fuller, would later testify that he saw William's car abandoned near a motel parking lot on May 2. Fuller remembered it clearly because he had noticed the out-of-state license plate. Investigators eventually found William's vehicle in Atlantic City on May 8. Inside the trunk, police discovered traces of carpet fibers and a faint smell of cleaning chemicals. DNA swabs confirmed small blood droplets matched William's profile. It seemed someone had tried to scrub away evidence of a violent confrontation. Over the next weeks, law enforcement set about piecing together the timeline. They believed William died on the night of April 29 or early April 30. From that point forward, the killer had methodically dismembered the body, possibly in a bathtub, based on forensic analysis of drain pipes and plumbing tests done at the couple's Woodbridge apartment. Cleaning solutions purchased at a local store matched receipts later recovered from Melanie McGuire's belongings. Security footage from various New Jersey and Delaware toll plazas captured a car resembling Melanie's traveling south around May 3, lending credibility to the theory that the suitcases had been personally driven to Virginia shores for disposal. A crucial witness emerged in late May. Richard Evans, a night shift attendant at a rest stop off Interstate 95 in Maryland, recalled a woman hurriedly disposing of large plastic bags into a dumpster on May 4. He remembered because the woman seemed anxious and dropped a couple of gloves on the pavement. Evans couldn't positively identify Melanie McGuire. He was shown photos months later. But his account provided another puzzle piece suggesting that whoever killed William made a clandestine road trip south, possibly to stage the body's discovery far from home. By August 2004, investigators began to suspect Melanie. She was a nurse at a fertility clinic, well-versed in anatomy and comfortable around medical tools. She had access to prescription drugs, which might explain sedatives found in William's system. Friends described the marriage as strained. Financial disputes were frequent. William was said to be a man who enjoyed gambling in Atlantic City, and arguments over money had flared up in recent months. On top of that, there were rumors of an extramarital affair involving Melanie. While not confirmed, such a relationship might have given her motive: a desire to rid herself of an unhappy marriage and start anew. In subsequent interviews, Melanie portrayed herself as a worried wife, insisting William had simply run off. She suggested he might have gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd. However, her story changed details over time. When asked about the cleaning chemicals, she became evasive. When confronted with the gun ownership records, she had purchased a firearm just days before William's disappearance. She insisted it was for home protection and nothing more. The prosecution would later highlight these inconsistencies at trial. Notably, the dismemberment itself was a chilling hallmark of this crime. It displayed knowledge, patience, and a level of detachment that unnerved detectives. They theorized the killer not only wanted to conceal the victim's identity, but also to ensure the body was never found intact, thereby obscuring cause of death. This method, combined with transportation of body parts across state lines, suggested careful forethought, not a crime of passion committed on impulse. As more evidence surfaced, phone records, toll receipts, and financial documents, it became apparent that this was no random killing. The use of suitcases, purchased from a local department store according to receipts, indicated planning. The suitcases matched a brand that one neighbor recalled seeing Melanie carry into their apartment a few weeks before the murder. That small detail placed the killer and the method of disposal squarely together. Throughout the investigation, the public was gripped by every revelation. Local news outlets, including the Star-Ledger and News 12 New Jersey, provided daily updates. Talk radio hosts and call-in shows fielded countless theories from citizens. Was Melanie acting alone, or had she enlisted help? Some neighbors speculated a secret lover might have been involved. Others wondered if William owed money to dangerous individuals who forced Melanie's hand. Over time, these rumors would fade, replaced by the stark reality emerging from lab tests and witness testimonies. One fisherman who found the first suitcase testified with trembling voice, "I've never seen anything like that. It's not something you forget." Another witness, a janitor working at a Delaware rest stop, claimed to have seen a woman fitting Melanie's description pacing near a trash bin. Though he could not identify her with certainty, his recollection of her nervous demeanor added another brushstroke to the portrait of a killer growing increasingly desperate to cover her tracks. As the narrative took shape, the unique aspects of the crime became clear. It was not just the dismemberment or the disposal in suitcases that fascinated criminal profilers. It was the calm, methodical manner in which these actions were undertaken. Professionals recognized what they called offender signature, patterns of behavior that reflect underlying psychological needs or fantasies. In this case, the neat packaging of the victim's remains suggested an almost clinical detachment, as if the killer had reduced a human being to mere objects to be compartmentalized and discarded. This degree of control and attention to detail raised troubling questions about the perpetrator's personality. Experts would argue that such a killer might feel empowered by the act of dismemberment, turning a personal conflict rather than a vicious behavior against her interests. The marital discord into a methodical puzzle. The communication patterns, or lack thereof, were also telling. Melanie McGuire made no attempt to taunt authorities or the media. Instead, she followed a path of quiet evasion, hoping that distance and fragmentation would be enough to thwart identification. Psychologically, this kind of crime suggests someone who compartmentalized her actions. By treating the body as segments rather than a whole person, the killer might have distanced herself from the emotional gravity of the act. It was a way of breaking down reality into manageable parts, much like a medical professional might approach a complex task. That, combined with the strategic planning and disposal of evidence, made it a case study in criminal psychology, illustrating how a seemingly normal individual could orchestrate an extraordinary act of brutality. The investigation that followed involved multiple jurisdictions. The New Jersey State Police took the lead under the guidance of Detective Michael D'Angelo, a seasoned investigator known for his tenacity. He collaborated closely with Detective Carolyn Kelly of the Virginia Beach Police Department once the body was discovered in their waters. The FBI, represented by Special Agent James Harper, offered expertise in forensic profiling and worked on coordinating interstate communication. Early on, these investigators faced significant challenges. The crime scene was not confined to a single location but spread across state lines. The original crime likely occurred in Woodbridge, New Jersey. The body, however, was dumped hundreds of miles away in the Chesapeake region. The victim's car turned up in Atlantic City, adding another point on the map to connect. From the outset, law enforcement leveraged technology. DNA analysis confirmed the victim's identity. Ballistic tests tied bullets found in body fragments to a specific firearm, while chemical tests on fabrics in the suitcases provided subtle clues. The investigators examined phone records from April 28 through May 5, mapping out call locations and times. Credit card receipts led them to cleaning supplies purchased shortly before William's disappearance. Surveillance cameras at toll plazas recorded vehicle movements, yielding timestamps that helped build a rough itinerary of the killer's trip southward. Despite the meticulous approach, there were setbacks. One crucial toll plaza camera malfunctioned, losing potentially valuable footage. Certain cleaning chemicals found in the apartment were so common that their presence alone proved inconclusive. The suitcases had been submerged long enough that some forensic evidence was compromised by water damage. Moreover, the initial lack of a firm suspect caused investigators to consider multiple theories. Could this have been a contract killing, given the precise dismemberment? Was it a crime connected to gambling debts that William might have owed? Detective D'Angelo publicly acknowledged these uncertainties in a June 2004 press conference, urging anyone with information to step forward. The public response was immediate and intense. Phone lines lit up with tips, most of them leading nowhere. Media coverage was relentless. Journalists camped outside the McGuire apartment, the fertility clinic where Melanie worked, and the county courthouse. They interviewed neighbors, ex-classmates, and even childhood friends of the couple. One neighbor described Melanie as quiet, polite, the kind of woman you'd never suspect. Another recalled that Melanie avoided community gatherings in the weeks following William's disappearance, appearing skittish and nervous. In autumn of 2004, a major breakthrough occurred. Detectives found a receipt for a gun purchase in Melanie's records, dated just days before William's death. The firearm was eventually traced back, its ballistic markings matching the bullets recovered from William's remains. Financial documents revealed that Melanie had been transferring money between accounts, and a suspicious search history on a household computer included queries about sedatives, gun laws, and dismemberment. Although the defense would later argue these could have benign explanations such as curiosity or coincidence, the prosecution saw them as damning evidence of premeditation. Jurisdictional challenges emerged, as New Jersey authorities needed to coordinate with their counterparts in Virginia and Delaware. Each state had different procedures and evidentiary rules. The FBI liaison, Agent Harper, helped streamline the process. Teams of investigators traveled between states to conduct interviews. They scrutinized the interstate toll records, trying to pinpoint the exact route the killer took. The involvement of multiple states complicated the chain of custody for evidence. Defense attorneys would later attempt to exploit these complications, suggesting that evidence could have been contaminated or mishandled. As winter approached, the media placed intense pressure on the authorities for an arrest. The sensational nature of the case, dismembered remains in suitcases, captured the public's imagination. Talk shows debated whether a mild-mannered nurse could commit such a crime. True crime enthusiasts online proposed myriad theories. Perhaps Melanie had an accomplice, or maybe William was not the intended victim. Nevertheless, behind the scenes, investigators steadily built their case. By October 2005, they felt confident enough to indict Melanie McGuire on charges of first-degree murder. When it came to suspects, Melanie McGuire stood at the forefront. She was William's wife, the last person known to see him alive, and now the focal point of the investigation. Motives seemed plausible, given the marital strains, financial stress, and alleged affair. Opportunity was evident. She lived with the victim and had the medical knowledge to carry out the dismemberment. Yet authorities still considered other suspects. Could William's gambling have attracted dangerous criminals seeking revenge? Detectives interviewed known associates in Atlantic City, including casino employees who remembered William as a regular. No concrete link emerged between his gambling and a hit-style murder. Another suspect briefly considered was a disgruntled co-worker, but that individual had a solid alibi. A lover, if one existed, might have played a role. Investigators examined phone records and emails to identify any secret correspondence. They discovered encrypted emails between Melanie and a man known as Daniel Price, a physician's assistant at the fertility clinic. While the emails were flirtatious and hinted at a romantic relationship, they did not directly implicate Price in the murder. He provided a clear alibi and cooperated fully with investigators. The final blow to theories of his involvement came when the prosecution's digital forensic expert testified that Price was at a medical conference at the time of William's death, confirmed by hotel receipts and time-stamped conference badges. For a time, attention fell on an ex-boyfriend of Melanie's from nursing school, identified as Robert Hendricks, who lived in Philadelphia. Investigators interviewed him, but Hendricks presented proof he was overseas on a volunteer medical mission at the relevant dates. With no evidence linking him to the murder, he was promptly eliminated as a suspect. In the end, all roads led back to Melanie. Evidence for her involvement was abundant: the gun purchase, suspicious internet searches, receipts for cleaning supplies, and cell tower pings placing her en route to Virginia around the time of the body's disposal. Defense attorneys argued these elements were circumstantial. They pointed out that the murder weapon was never physically recovered, that road trips and cleaning products could have innocent explanations, and that the presence of sedatives might have been related to William's insomnia. Still, the weight of the evidence made her the prime and ultimately only viable suspect. The most controversial aspect was the absence of an eyewitness who saw her commit the crime. The prosecution built a case on forensic science, motive, and the defendant's increasingly inconsistent statements. While some true crime enthusiasts argued that another unknown party might have been involved, no alternative suspect ever emerged with enough credibility to challenge the official narrative. In modern times, the McGuire case remains closed, with Melanie McGuire convicted and serving a life sentence. However, recent developments continue to spark interest. Over the years, advancements in DNA analysis have allowed for more definitive conclusions about microscopic evidence found at the crime scene. In 2015, a cold case review team re-examined hair and fiber samples using improved technology, confirming once more that traces matched items from the McGuire household. Though this provided no new suspect, it reinforced the correctness of the original verdict. There have been attempts to develop new theories. Some internet sleuths speculate about an unknown accomplice who might have helped transport the suitcases. In 2019, a documentary aired on a streaming service revisiting the timeline. Experts in profiling reanalyzed the psychological aspects. They concluded that the meticulous nature of the crime still pointed decisively to Melanie's singular control over the situation. Occasionally, Melanie's defense team appeals or seeks post-conviction relief, arguing that some new interpretation of ballistic or forensic evidence could exonerate her. Yet no substantial new evidence has emerged. Instead, technological tools used today, like advanced pattern recognition in travel records and improved ballistics databases, serve to confirm the original investigative findings. Modern discussion also highlights how digital footprints, already crucial in 2004, would be even more revealing today. If the murder occurred now, authorities would undoubtedly have more surveillance footage, smartphone GPS data, and smart home device logs. Some observers consider this a cautionary tale for criminals who think they can erase their tracks. In essence, the McGuire case, viewed through a modern lens, shows how determined investigators can piece together an intricate puzzle even with mid-2000s technology. While no new suspects have emerged, the legacy of the case in forensic and legal training persists. The lessons learned: 1. How to handle interstate evidence, coordinate with multiple agencies, and rely on digital breadcrumbs to inform modern investigations of similarly complex homicides. Culturally, the McGuire suitcase murder has left an indelible mark. Books and documentaries retell the grisly narrative with equal parts horror and fascination. True crime television specials highlight it as an example of domestic homicide taken to an extreme level of cruelty. The story inspired several fictionalized accounts, including a TV movie that dramatized events, focusing on the psychological aspects of a perpetrator who lived a double life. The case also prompted law enforcement agencies to refine their protocols for missing persons who vanish under suspicious circumstances, leading to quicker action and more efficient cross-state communication. Public consciousness changed after this case. It eroded the notion that idyllic suburban life was immune to monstrous crimes. It made people more aware that violence can lurk behind the doors of even the most ordinary homes. In the pantheon of true crime, the McGuire murder stands as a cautionary tale that darkness can reside where we least expect it. The legacy endures in police academy case studies, law school discussions about circumstantial evidence, and true crime forums where amateur sleuths dissect each detail. The story remains a reminder of the fragile trust within domestic relationships and the importance of forensic science in ensuring justice. It continues to attract new generations of true crime enthusiasts who remain captivated by its complexity, its brutality, and the ultimate conviction that ended the mystery yet never quite erased the lingering shadows of what if. In the end, the McGuire suitcase murder offers a window into the darkest corners of human behavior, illustrating how careful planning can intersect with raw violence, and how even the strongest facade of normalcy can be shattered by a single, unthinkable act. It encourages us to reflect on the profound implications such crimes have, not just for the victim's loved ones, but for entire communities that lose a bit of their innocence in the process. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories. If you found this case compelling, you might also be interested in the John List murders of the 1970s, or the case of Hella Crafts, who vanished under suspicious circumstances, as both offer haunting parallels in the depths of domestic betrayal. Join the conversation in the comments and share your thoughts on what drives a person to commit such a carefully orchestrated and devastating crime.